It's summertime! Your girl Duana here with another sew along, but this time for my Know Me pattern ME2084. What I love about this pattern is that it has two views. View A, which is the long dress, and it also has a little slit on the side. View B has a contrast and it's shorter. What I love about both of them is that it has a nice open back. And what I love about the open back is that there's a little tie in the middle. I also love the fact that this is also a stretch knit pattern, so you can use your stretch knit. I think you can go from a range of super stretchy to not as stretchy. I think it really just depends on what you want. I've tried both and I think it works really nicely. I love rib knit personally for this pattern. This is absolutely perfect for the summer with the open back. You can also lengthen the back if you want, like where the yoke is, you can just make it a little longer. I have, and I like it like that. You can also make it shorter if you want to have more open back, if that's your preference. I think that it makes this pattern super versatile because you also have the contrast. You can do the contrast with the collar, the armhole, the back. For this one, I actually didn't do the contrast on the yoke this time because I ran out of fabric, but you can do that as well if you want to just do the yoke the same color as the rest of the dress. You can do a lot with this pattern, even with like the short and the long. You have the slit in the long. You don't need to add the slit if you don't want to, or you can make the slit longer if you want to. You can shorten the dress, you can lengthen the dress however you want. So without further ado, let's get started with my sew along for my pattern ME2084. All right, so let's get an up close look at the pattern ME2084. As you can see, there is view A, which is the long dress, and then view B, which is the short dress with contrast. All right, when you flip it over to the back, you can see the different views, the back of the different views, and then also the contrast on the back. And then also on the top left, you can see the suggested fabrics, which is stretch knits only. And that's it for now. Let's go take a look at the pattern pieces inside. All right, let's take a look at the pattern pieces. This is pattern piece number 1, the front, and you're going to cut one of these on the fold. Next, this is pattern piece number 2, the bra front, and you're going to cut one of these on the fold. This is pattern piece number 3. This is the bra back, and you're going to cut 2 of these. This is pattern piece number 4. This is the elastic guide for the front, and you're just going to cut one of these. This is pattern piece number 5, the yoke back, and you're going to cut one of these on the fold, and if you're doing contrast, one of those on the fold. This is pattern piece number 6. This is the side back, and you're going to cut 2 of these. This is pattern piece number 7, the elastic guide for the back, and you're going to cut 2 of these. This is pattern piece number 8. This is the tie end, and you're going to cut 2 of these. Pattern piece number 9. This is the back, and you're going to cut 2 of these. This is pattern piece number 10, the elastic guide for the waist, and you're going to cut 1 of these. This is pattern piece number 11. This is the collar, and you're going to cut 2 of the fabric, 2 of the contrast, and 1 of the interfacing. This is pattern piece number 12. This is the neckband, and you're going to cut 1 of these and 1 of the contrast. And last but not least, this is pattern piece number 13, the armhole band, and you'll cut either 2 of those or 2 of the contrast. All right, let's take a look at the fabric. So this is going to be the main fabric that I'm going to use. And then I also have my contrast fabric. I also need some interfacing, and this interfacing is only for the collar. The pattern also calls for a few different sizes of elastic, and I ended up using 1/4 inch elastic for the entire project. You can also opt for a wider piece of elastic as well. And that's it. So let's go ahead and get started on the sew along. When cutting your fabric out, I just want to make a quick note. Make sure you are marking all your notches, all your large dots. It will make this so much easier. Try not to skip it. I know it's tempting sometimes, but don't skip it. Okay, we're going to start with the bra front, and to reinforce the armhole edges of the bra front, we're going to stitch along 3/8 of an inch seam line for about 1 inch on each side of the large dot, stitching through the large dot. And you're going to do that on both sides. Once you've completed step 1, you're going to stitch the bra back sections to the bra front at the sides, matching the notches. Clip the bra front to reinforce the stitching at the large armhole dots, being careful not to clip through the stitching. Then you're going to press under 3/8 of an inch hem on the armhole edges below clips and stitch 1/4 of an inch from the folded edge. I used my pattern piece number 4 to cut out the length of the elastic for the bra front. And on the wrong side, you're going to pin the elastic to the lower edge of the bra front within the hem allowance, having inner edge about 5/8 of an inch from the raw edge. So now you're going to turn the lower edge of the bra to the inside along the 5/8 of an inch hemline and inner edge of elastic, encasing the elastic. And here's where I would also recommend that you use a serger. I didn't use a serger for this project, but I highly recommend it because it will look a lot cleaner. And here's what it should look like. As you can see, the raw edges are still out, but again, if you use a serger, that will clean that up. So now it's time to grab the front of the dress, and with wrong sides together and raw edges even, you're going to pin the bra front to the front of the dress, matching the center's front and large dots having raw edges even. Also, I made sure to just redo my marks because sometimes they get lost or I have them on the other side. And so that's just to make sure that I stitch up to the correct place. Baste 1/4 inch from raw edges above clips, keeping the hem edges of the bra out of the way. When I baste the bra front to the dress front, I also reinforced the V on the neck edge of the front. And now I could move on to the tie ends. I actually extended my tie ends. I do think that the pattern allows for a really good length tie, but I wanted a longer tie, especially because I am now turning this into a maternity dress, and I'm gonna need that. So I have 2 pieces of the tie end, and I'm gonna fold each tie end in half lengthwise with right sides together. And so once I'm done that, I'm going to take this to my sewing machine. All right, so now I'm going to stitch the long edges in a 3/8 of an inch seam, stretching the tie while I'm stitching. And I decided to do this last minute, but instead of tucking in the raw edge on one end of the tie, I decided to just go ahead and stitch it with the sewing machine one time, and it worked out well. And then I used a loop turner to turn it around, and that was pretty simple. But if you're new to using a loop turner, this might be a tricky concept. So then I would recommend using a needle or a type of pin. All right, so I'm going to take my tie ends, and on the outside, I'm going to baste the tie ends to the back edges of the bra, centering each tie over the large dot. And you may need to remark your dots if you don't see them. And you're going to do the same thing. Also let the left side back to the end of the left bra in the same manner. You're going to stitch the right side back to the back end of the right bra. Once you've basted the side back pieces to the bra back, you're going to have your elastic pieces ready. And on the wrong side, you're going to pin the elastic to the long unnotched edge of each side back within the seam allowance. Once you've stitched the elastic to the side backs, you're going to turn the side back to the outside along the inner edge of the elastic. And on the outside, you're going to top stitch 3/8 of an inch from the pressed edge. Before moving on, you want to correctly align the bra inside of the garment, having the right side of the bra and the wrong side of the dress front facing up towards you. Now I'm going to take my yoke back. Now I know that I chose the contrast option and the yoke back is not in contrast. I just ran out of fabric, but it seemed to work out beautifully, and so I moved on with the regular fabric. And so with the right sides together, you're going to stitch the lower edge of the yoke back to the upper edges of the side back sections, matching the large dots and notches, keeping the bra and the dress free. So go ahead and stitch those together. All right, so now you're going to press the seam towards the yoke back, pressing up about 5/8 of an inch hem allowance on the lower edges of the yoke between the large dots. So take that to the sewing machine and you're going to go ahead and top stitch the lower edge of the yoke. And I've mentioned it before, but I'm going to mention it again. It's a good idea to serge if you have that option, especially when you have raw edges with knits. It just looks a lot cleaner. And in this case, I did not use a serger for this project. And this is what the top stitch is going to look like. Also, trim off any threads that look a little messy, just to kind of get it cleaned up. Okay, so now have right side of the dress and wrong side of the yoke back facing up toward you with a bra sandwich in between. And what you're going to do is you're going to turn the shoulder seam allowances of the yoke and the dress front towards each other, having the right sides together as shown. You're going to just pin that together. And this is just going to make it easier for when you are ready to stitch the shoulder seams together. All right, so now you're going to turn each shoulder wrong sides out and you're going to remove the pin, and with right sides together, you're going to stitch the shoulder seams. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the back skirt sections, and I'll come back to the collar later. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your back pieces and you're going to stitch the center back seam of the back skirt sections, matching the triple notches. So first I'll find my notches and I will pin where the notches are first, and then I'll pin the rest of the seam. And so once I am done doing the pinning, I'm going to take that to my sewing machine. Okay, so now I'm gonna take the lower edges of my side back sections and I'm gonna stitch that to the upper edge of the skirt, matching the notches and small dots. Okay, so now you're gonna cut the elastic for the waist, and with wrong sides up facing you, you're gonna pin the elastic to the back waist seam allowance, having the inner edge 5/8 of an inch from the raw edge. Turn the waist seam allowance to the inside along the inner edge of the elastic, encasing the elastic. And then on the outside, you're going to stitch the 3/8 of an inch from the raw edge throughout all the seam allowances, stretching the elastic as you go. And as you can see, it is still very stretchy and very flexible. All right, so turn the dress right sides together. And you're going to stitch the front and the back at the sides, making sure to keep free the edges of the bra and the straps out of the way. So now this is what it should look like from the back, and take a look at the front. All right, so notice no contrast pieces, even though the yoke should have been a contrast piece. So now we are going to go ahead and grab the neckband, and we are going to start in on the contrast pieces. Okay, so fold the neckband in half lengthwise with wrong sides together, matching the centers, small and large dots. And then you're going to press. Now you're going to lap the ends of the neckband right over left, matching the large dots, and then having the raw edges even, and you're going to pin those together. All right, so now at the front, you're going to clip the center front seam allowance to reinforce the stitching at the large dot, making sure you're not clipping through the reinforcement stitching. And I already went ahead and with right sides together and raw edges even, I pinned the band to the neck edge, matching the centers, the notches, and making sure I place the inner small dots at the shoulder seams. So now we're at the point of V, and this part gets a little tricky, but what you're gonna do is you're gonna baste along the seam line between the pins, and then with band against the machine and top towards you, you're gonna baste along 3/8 of the seam line and a long stitching line on the neck edge, stretching the band to fit and pivoting with the needle in the fabric at the center front. And it's definitely a good idea to start at the point of the V-neck because it will just make it so much easier. But you want to definitely be as close to where that clipped end is as possible. And this is what it should look like when you have attached the neckband. All right, so now I have my collar pieces and you're gonna attach interfacing to one collar. I actually ended up doing both. That's just something that I like to do just because it makes stitching it easier when one's not stretchy and the other is. And so I just interfaced both sides. And now with right sides together, you're gonna stitch the facing to the collar, leaving the notch edges open. And now I'm gonna trim my seams and corners. All right, so at the bottom of the collar, I'm gonna baste the raw edges together. Okay, so now you're gonna turn the dress right side out and you're gonna pin the collar to the neck edge over the band, matching the centers back and large dots, placing the small dots at the shoulder seams. And this is what it should look like. Again, don't forget to serge if you have a serger. And then also on the outside, you're gonna edge stitch the top close to the neck seam. This is also a good time to just trim any other threads that are sticking out just to clean it up. All right, so we're almost done. So now we're gonna grab our armhole bands. You're gonna take the armhole bands and you're gonna fold it in half, and then you're gonna pin and then stitch those together at the notches. And you're gonna fold the band in half lengthwise with wrong sides together, matching the small dots. All right, go ahead and pin that together. On the outside, you're gonna pin the band to the armhole edge, placing the small dot at the shoulder seam and matching the side seams. Now go ahead and stitch those together. Okay, last but not least, you are going to hem the bottom. So you're going to press under 1 1/4 inch hem on the lower edge, and then you're going to stitch 1/4 of an inch from the raw edge. And that's it. Your dress is done. And we are done, done, done. Here's the final look of my pattern ME2084. Thanks for watching my sew along. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to tag us in your makes.